So settling into a posture for meditation, finding a way to sit that's upright and relaxed. And as you're ready, allowing your eyes to be closed. Settle into some mindfulness of breath and body, releasing any unnecessary tension on your eyes or jaw, shoulders, chest or belly. Feel the breath coming and going. Take a couple minutes to drop the attention out of the thinking mind into the feeling body and just settle. Now bring to mind someone that you care about, maybe even your favorite person, primary partner, closest friend. Picture them in your mind, their image. Bringing to mind that they have joy and sorrow in their life, suffering and happiness. The intention to meet their difficulties with compassion, their happiness with appreciation. And begin to say to them these equanimity phrases. I understand that your happiness or unhappiness depends upon your actions, not my wishes for you. I understand that your happiness depends on your actions, your karmic momentum, not upon my wishes. Getting our mind around, our heart open to this perspective that understands that this person that we love, that we care about, that we cherish, is the heir, the inheritor of their own karma. And their happiness or unhappiness will depend upon their own actions. They must practice wisdom and compassion in their own lives in order to be happy. We can't do that for them. I understand, or I'm coming to understand, or may I understand, may I know that your happiness depends on your actions, not my wishes. And you can invite the next person in. Think of someone else. Bring your children, your other close relationships, people that you really care about, that you, of course, want to be happy. And remind yourself that we can meet each other with compassion and appreciation and support and encouragement, love and friendliness, but that we can't end anyone else's suffering, the internal causes of suffering. I understand that your happiness or unhappiness in this life is going to depend on your actions, not my wishes for you. Think of all of the people that you care about. Imagine them gathered in a large space. Imagine looking out over the gathering of your friends and family, the Sangha, your recovery community, your whatever communities you're part of. And seeing the pain, the suffering, the difficulties, the stressors that all these people experience, with the intention of meeting their suffering with compassion, caring about it, seeing the joy that these people that you know and care about experience, meeting it with appreciation. And then reminding yourself that all of these people that I know and care about and appreciate have their own karma, are responsible for their own happiness. No one can do it for them. All of these beings in our lives are heirs to their own actions. Powerful, able, and some may be willing to do the work, and some may not yet be willing to take the actions necessary to find the happiness they seek. All of our known associates, everyone that we've ever met, worthy of compassion, worthy of kindness and appreciation, of respect, and fully responsible for their own happiness. The traditional way to do this is to radiate this understanding, this feeling of compassion, of equanimity in the four directions. All beings to the east, met with kindness and compassion, appreciation, and the understanding that they're fully responsible for their own happiness, heirs to their own karma. All beings to the west, to the north and south, across this continent, across the seas, until we cover the whole earth with a heart imbued with kindness and compassion, appreciation, and a heart that understands all living beings, whether near or far away, those being born in this moment, those dying in this moment. Of every race and religion, every ethnicity and nationality, of every political view, is a being that has their own karma, fully responsible for all of their volitional acts. This, of course, extends beyond the human realm to animals, from the smallest insects to the largest mammals. All living beings, all sentient beings. Are heirs to their own karma, their happiness or unhappiness, their peace, their freedom. Depends upon their responses to what's happening in their lives. Not for our wishes, not upon our wishes for them. For the last couple of minutes, return to this being right here, you and your skin, your body, your mind. This person that we have the most influence over. the only person that we have the ability to develop happiness in, which is ourselves. Feel your breath, your body. Breathe into your heart, your emotional center. Become aware of your mood, your mind state, the joys and sorrows in your life. And remind yourself that you are fully responsible. And saying to ourselves, I am fully responsible for my own happiness. I am an heir to my own karma. My happiness or unhappiness depends upon my actions, how I respond, not upon anybody else's wishes for me. You can reframe that in the metta way, which is, may I learn to be at ease with myself just as I am. May I do the work that needs to be done to experience the happiness that I seek. And then acknowledge that you are doing it. Say to yourself, I am doing the work that needs to be done. I'm taking the actions, developing the karma that will lead to the happiness that I seek. Like with many of the Buddhist practices, just doing the phrases and starting to do this doesn't necessarily lead to a experience of equanimity, but it is a developmental process that will lead to loving kindness and compassion and equanimity and appreciation. So we do these practices long term, regularly, and it brings more of this about eventually. Sometimes when you start practices, it actually kind of dysregulates you more than it makes you feel happy or peaceful. But the experience of equanimity is being completely at ease with what is, with the reality of the world as it is, not suffering about needing it to be different. Maybe phrased as Ajahn Sumedho, one of my teachers, fond of saying, and did a whole long series of teachings. Right now, it's like this. And so if we can acknowledge the way that it is, the world is, our mind is, our body is, I just acknowledge it's like this with acceptance, with compassion for the way that it is, with a friendliness towards the way that it is, with appreciation of all of the wonderful ways that it is at times. Right now, in this moment, it's like this. My mind is like this. And you can have equanimity even in the midst of difficult thoughts. Equanimity or peace or this sort of balanced state of mind. It doesn't mean, sometimes we think that it means there's no difficulties. Equanimity with the difficulties. At peace or at ease or an acceptance of reality as it is, the difficult sensations, the difficult emotions, the difficult people, the bad news, the coronavirus, hysteria, whatever it is. Equanimity, okay, it's like this. Now, right now, this is what's happening. This is the reality that we're living in this moment. I have a choice. Am I going to suffer about it? Or am I going to meet it with a balanced and measured and wise and compassionate and friendly response? Now, of course, we all want to do that, right? That's why we're here and that's why we're meditating, and we want to have a wise response. I said, one of the things that struck me that I heard when I was in Thailand a couple months ago was Ajahn Amaro quoting Ajahn Chah saying that he thought, I think he was, and I was surprised by this, that I believe he said that Ajahn Chah said 50 to 70% of the time, even long-term meditators, the dilemma for us is we know what to do, but we can't quite do it yet. 50 to 70% of the time, I'm suffering and I should let go. I'm angry and I should forgive. I'm, hating and I should have compassion. I should let go. We know what to do. You've read the Dharma books. You've heard the Dharma talks. You've been practicing. Looks like people are freezing. Jason, would you turn the... Although freezing is also a good opportunity for compassion practice. Dealing with the unpleasant coldness. And so, we develop this movement towards the ability to be at ease with what is. And equanimity, this is one of the things. Isn't this how you suffer? A lot of your suffering is about other people or about the world. So this is one of the tools that gives us to, let's not suffer so much about this world that we live in. Let's not suffer so much about our inability to change other people. Let's focus on changing ourselves, our reactions, our perspectives. And let's not use equanimity as a excuse for our lack of compassion. Acceptance doesn't mean complacency, right? It's why it's in conjunction with compassion. Compassion says, care and be engaged and work hard for a positive change on this planet. All of that motivated by care and compassion. Appreciation, as we talked about last week, like enjoy the good times. Appreciate other people's successes and joys, and don't suffer about it. Develop an equanimity, equanimous attitude about this world. Now, I'm not so sure about that whole just and lawful universe bit. I like to reflect on, like my own attitude is maybe I'll take an agnostic stance on this universe being just and lawful. Sure doesn't fucking look like it. And I think it's for me, I'm way more land in injustice, and it makes much more sense to me that it's an unjust, chaotic universe. But you find out for yourself. There's a lot of Buddhists that have just landed in this, like, yep, nope, everything's perfect just as it is. Let's work for creating a positive change, but it's all karma and it's all causes and conditions, and it doesn't completely make sense to me. I'll come to your question in a moment, or your comment, Judy. Here's what I'll say about this. Many of you have heard me say it. I like to say this. I see the Dharma as a progression that happens, your experience. And really, I believe that the Dharma, being the Buddha's teachings, the truth that gets revealed, experienced, is there's a progression that happens, like and so like I'll say, like A to Z, the alphabet. And mostly, I believe what's encouraged is find out for yourself what's true. Verify. Listen to the teachings, get the meditation instructions, apply them, and verify for yourself, is this true or not true? Does this help end suffering in my life and in this world? And find out for yourself, rather than there's not a lot of blind faith asked for, but verified confidence, faith. So my experience is I came to Buddhism skeptical at best. Some hippie shit my parents were into. I wasn't very interested, but I was desperate enough to say, I'll try it. And then I verified, mindfulness helps alleviate a little bit of suffering in my life. I'm going to keep doing that. Loving kindness. It's actually created a whole different perspective and attitude in my life. I verified that. Compassion. Learning to care, forgiveness, learning, like all of these experiences, meditation practices then applied and verified. And then there's stuff like reincarnation and these statements like it's a just and lawful universe. I'm like, okay, it doesn't look like that for me, but I haven't been steered wrong yet. Everything else that I've been taught lines up. All of the meditative experiences, it all lines up and has been transformative. And so I have some trust, some faith that the Buddha wasn't wrong about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, wherever I am in the middle of the path somewhere, the middle of the middle path. And maybe these things about, reincarnation and all beings having their own karma and this, process that's been unfolding for eons, maybe that's true and it's X, Y, Z. And I don't know, and I don't have to have blind faith that that's for sure true. I'm happy to land, as I said, in like an agnostic stance around some of the Buddhist teachings like reincarnation that I can't verify for myself here and now. So what are your thoughts about equanimity? Questions, comments? Judy, please.
I just wanted to say about the whole reincarnation thing. To me, I believe more the way you do, personally. But if you look at a universe that has this amount of injustice and suffering and pain, it is comforting if you believe in a just world and karma, because then you have some kind of control.
Yeah.
So if you were shit in your last life and you are abused as a 3-year-old in this life, that perhaps if you use that suffering to have greater wisdom in your next life, do you know what I mean? Like, it would give you some sort of sense of comfort that you might have control over the unjustness that appears to be, because you could elevate your next life by being good and by having wisdom.
Yeah.
I mean, so it kind of makes sense to me to view it that way, but I personally don't view it that way. But
some people do.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of agency in it.
Yeah, because it's sort of frightening to think like, this little kid's raped at 3, or these people are deported, put in like that. If it's so random, where's the sense of all that suffering if it's that random? You want to put some kind of order over it.
I cannot get my mind around any kind of abuse being someone's karma. So I just won't. Even if it's true, I just won't. I refuse to blame victims in any way. So how I've made sense of it, for what it's worth, is I think of karma not at all about what happens to us, but I think of karma really just about how we respond to what happens to us. So the kid that's abused, or anybody the karma isn't in that was your karma. The karma is, how did I respond to the neglect, the abuse, the difficulties that I experienced? And my karma was in my actions of how I responded to it, not what happened to me or to anyone else. That makes sense? Karma is as response, as volitional ways that we respond to what happens to us in our lives, not what happens to us. That's the only way that I can really swallow it, and that and I feel is much more kind of empowering in that way. Question, comment?
Yeah, what if you did some really shitty things earlier in your life?
Yeah, sure, we all did. What's the question?
So how do you deal with those?
You balance. You forgive yourself. You develop compassion for understanding why we behaved in those ways, and we see the pain and the confusion that was fueling those shitty actions, as you put it. Get some compassion for that young person that was so confused that their confusion was spilling out onto other people. So some compassion, and then we develop some forgiveness for that wounded being that was wounding others, right? So that's part of it. And then we commit to not behaving in that way, and to doing good, and to purifying our karma, and also to see some of the shitty stuff that happens as opportunity to respond in a different way than we used to. I have a simple example that I like to use. I used to like to steal a lot when I was younger, and I stopped when I got sober, and I started practicing the Dharma. I stopped stealing for the most part. Pretty good. No, but I did. I used to, anyways. For the most part, I did. I don't think my integrity was perfect. I remember one time, even when I was going on pilgrimage, and I was very much in recovery. I was working at a hospital, and I was like, oh, there's this stuff at the hospital that I could take on my trip, stealing shit from work. And I didn't even realize, it was I'm not robbing a liquor store anymore, but these pens that I'm taking from work are not mine. This is belongs to the hospital that I work in. But I'm going to take these pens and I'm going to give them to kids in India. But anyways, so for the most part, I stopped stealing, but not completely. And I was in graduate school in San Francisco, and I had just used a bunch of my student loans to buy a new bicycle, as we do with student loans. Instead of paying the bills, I was like, I'm going to buy this killer bicycle. And I locked it up. I was at school, and I locked it up in the appropriate place with the appropriate lock. And I came out from class, and my brand new bicycle was gone. As it happens, you could live in Venice. How many bicycles have been stolen? Wasn't me. But I took that experience as, I used to steal a lot. And I had anger and I had, I had some emotions about it. But pretty quickly, because I'd been studying Dharma and wanting to purify my karma, I said, oh, this is, like I've stole so much in my past. Of course, if this kind of stuff, I can frame it as karmic purification. I did a bunch of shitty things in my past, and now some shitty things happen to me. I can see it as karmic purification. I can respond with acceptance rather than rage. How could this happen to me? There's a story where the Buddha is asked a question like this about somebody who had really terrible behavior and then became a Buddhist, and terrible things were happening in that person's life. And he came to the Buddha and he said, what should I do about all of this stuff that's happening? And the Buddha said, just bear it. Your job is to bear the difficulties that you're facing. Of course you're having difficulties with the karma that you have, of course. So respond with acceptance and with compassion and with forgiveness and develop a wise response to all of these difficulties that are happening. Does that make sense to you? The first part, I think, was the more important part. Have compassion for the confusion and the suffering that all of us have been in at times in our lives, and how that has spilled out and we've caused harm to other people, and learn to forgive ourselves. There's practices that we do that lead to that experience. Lastly, I think I'm doing forgiveness next week, but lastly, regret is a healthy emotion. If you've caused harm to others, part of empathy, part of compassion, part of wisdom is regretting the harm that we've caused. We take full responsibility for it. And of course, there's some regret. But that regret is balanced with compassion and with forgiveness and with self-acceptance. And don't think that no matter how forgiving, no matter how compassionate, that you're going to no longer have painful memories or regrets about the harm that we've caused. It's healthy to have those regrets. But we don't need to live in shame. And there's a big difference. I guess that's the time for tonight. Do this practice some. Do it out in your life when you're annoyed with people in traffic. All of these people have their own karma. Do it at work when do it in your relationship when do it with your children, with your friends, with your partners. Remind yourself over and over, this person that I care about and that I'm don't feel like is acting right is heirs to their own karma, not my wishes for them. Please, Ricky, you can say something.
I think I struggle with sometimes, and I get that everyone is responsible for their own karma and everyone is compassionate, I think, and I think I actually know the answer. But there are times where if I just accept things and I meet everything with compassion, there are times where it feels like I'm giving up and that person or somebody who's really difficult or doesn't, and I guess like maybe there's healthy boundaries and ways to talk about that. But when you meet really challenging people in the world who do show ignorance or for everything, it's like you just accept it and give them compassion and like you just have to accept. Sometimes it just feels almost like giving up. There's so many situations in life where I just like, I guess it's out of your control, but I don't know. I have a hard time where sometimes I almost feel like I'm just it feels like I'm being soft, and maybe it's just because it's new and I'm new that I'm not conditioned and I'm not still fully meeting things with wise response truly, and it's only just scratching the surface. But sometimes it just feels like, how do you balance the compassion? I don't know if that's clear.
Yeah. it's the big equation that we're all going to have to work on. I love the serenity prayer and the kind of Buddhist application of the serenity prayer, which says, may I have the acceptance to, may I have the, may I have the serenity, may I have the equanimity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to act where it's appropriate to act, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know that equation of when is it time to accept and when is it time to act. And when I have the equanimity, the serenity, that's the equation. And so I can't give you an answer of when, and that's probably when we've been in a habitual reactive tendency that was a bit unskillful. Starting to be skillful is going to feel soft. When we've been in non-acceptance for a long time and trying to kind of control things around us, coming into some equanimity is going to feel like, wow, man, I feel ineffectual. I used to feel like I was in control of shit. And now I'm like just letting people suffer when it's their, so I just trust your practice and that you'll keep going and that you'll find more and more discernment around when it's time to act and when it's time to let go. Few announcements. Whoa. Day long this Saturday. If you haven't registered yet, you can register online or you can just show up. Starts at 9 a.m. Saturday the 7th. We'll spend the day, we're going to talk about the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So we'll do sitting meditation and walking meditation and alternate that throughout the day. There'll be a lunch break. We'll go till 4 p.m., 9 to 4. If we haven't really set up a way to register for scholarships online, but you can, if you can afford it, please pay the registration fee. It helps us pay the rent. But if you really want to come and practice for the day and you can't afford it, you can come on scholarship. It's okay. We don't turn people away for lack of funds here. Everyone's welcome. But we do have expenses. So register if you can afford it. The Ajahn Chah lineage study practice 4-month course starts on March 22nd. There is spaces available. We'll be meeting once a month for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon. And in March, April, May, and June. And then studying an Ajahn Chah literature, practicing together. And then people that are taking that course will also have the opportunity to each month have a 30-minute kind of practice interview support meeting with me. The Memorial Day retreat is open for registration. I'll be in North Carolina in April if you know anybody down there. Are we set on the tea ceremony? We have 4 spots for the tea ceremony, which is next week or in 2 weeks? Next Monday. We have, it's on the 16th. We have 4 spots left for this tea ceremony that's happening in a couple weeks on March 16th. That'll happen on Monday night before class. If you're interested in that, it's led by a long-term member of our community. And you drink tea basically as a meditation practice. So if you're interested in coming to the meditation tea drinking ceremony party, there's only 4 spots left. Chinese black tea, usually some kind of black tea. That's it. Donations are greatly appreciated. We don't charge for these teachings, but give you the opportunity to voluntarily contribute to supporting me as a teacher, the center. And there is a bowl over there. And we encourage a $15 to $20 donation for drop-in classes. And even more kind of encourage people to become supporters of the center by giving a monthly voluntary donation to the center, and you can sign up for that online, or if you have questions about that, you can talk to Ricky over here. She'll be at the desk, or is Chris here? You're at the desk tonight? Yeah. Okay, thanks for going over. Sorry for going over a few minutes. Thank you for your practice. May any merit that's created be shared outward in all directions with all beings. May each of us learn to accept this world just as it is, as we continue to work to create a positive change on this planet.